A chilling terror plot, viewers, that has come to light. In fact, it could have been a reality in a Brooklyn community center, and that could have turned it into a bloodbath. Mohammad Shahzeb Khan, he's a 20-year-old Pakistani national who is also goes by the name Shahzeb Jadoon. What he tried to do was he had an ISIS-style terror plot in mind, which is why he was looking to come from Canada to America. Here is a Pakistani man who wanted to inflict terror in the heart of New York City. He wanted to do that on the 7th of October to coincide with the Hamas attack that took place in Israel. Why is it that Pakistan, which is the fountainhead of terror around the world, looking to inflict, Pakistani terrorists looking to inflict more terror in America? I want to play out this report that tells you why is this so serious, and then we come back and talk more about why is it that Trump is not acting on any of this and instead is choosing to praise the Pakistani leadership.
A storm brews in Washington as yet another Pakistani national is linked to a chilling terror plot on US soil. His name is Mohammad Shahzeb Khan, just 20 years old, an alleged ISIS supporter, arrested in Canada and extradited to the United States. Prosecutors say he planned to attack a Jewish community center in New York City, aiming to carry out a mass shooting on October 7th, the anniversary of Hamas's bloody assault on Israel. An undercover federal operation revealed that Khan publicly posted about jihad, and his conversations mostly revolved around support for ISIS and preparations for the attack. But this isn't an isolated case. In May 2011, a Pakistani man was deported in a failed New York bombing case. Just months later, September 2011, another Pakistani was arrested on terror charges. Fast forward to August 2024, yet another Pakistani was held for plotting to kill US politicians. And in March, a man was arrested for smuggling US technology to Pakistan. Instead of sanctions, instead of accountability, the US recently showered the Pakistan government with praise as Trump branded the leadership as strong. That's not all, as Islamabad was awarded key positions at the United Nations Security Council, Vice Chair of the UNSC Counter-Terror Panel being one of them. And what about the money? The IMF, a US-influenced institution, continues to bankroll Pakistan. All while India raises alarm, warning that these funds may be fueling terrorism, not stopping it. The question remains, how many plots, how many arrests, how many near misses before America finally says enough? Bureau Report, NDTV World.
To talk more about this, I've got a voice that understands Pakistan like none other. Former High Commissioner of India to Pakistan, that is Ambassador Ajay Bisaria, who joins me live on the broadcast to decode why is it that Trump is not acting on this. Ambassador Bisaria, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks, Gaurie, for having me.
I'm going to first play out the big questions, and then I'm going to ask you all those questions and the significance of all of this. Let's put out some of those big questions that we are asking. First up, why is Donald Trump actually loading Pakistani leadership where there are Pakistani terrorists who are actually being found in his own backyard? Secondly, are Pakistani terror links now a global wake-up call? It's not an India issue, it's a global issue. When will United States stop funding the pariah state? Again and again, all these funds go back to the terror factories. Our defense minister has said it, and we have so many instances of that playing out. Lastly, will Trump remove Pakistan from the key UNSC committees where it's now actually heading some of those anti-terror panels? Some would have laughed had it not been this deeply ironical, would have actually been at the cost of lives. That's how serious this is. And Ambassador Bisaria, let me ask you those questions firstly. First and foremost, the fact that you have Shahzeb Khan, a Pakistani terrorist on American soil, attempting to create mayhem there, should be a wake-up call for Donald Trump. Instead, you have the US president lauding the Pakistani leadership.
Absolutely. I think this is a wake-up call for the world. What it tells you is that the ecosystem of global terrorism is alive and well. And what it also tells you that its epicenter is Pakistan. As your report noted, the roots of a lot of terrorist incidents over the last decades can be traced to Pakistan. And what it also demonstrates and underlines is that this is not just India's problem. Terrorism is the world's problem. And this is what the multiple Indian delegations that fanned across the world were telling the world. And this is almost coming on time to vindicate that view that all this terrorism is not just India's problem. The world is not insulated from this sort of terrorism. You saw the plot that was meant to attack a Jewish center in Brooklyn. It had echoes of what we saw in 26/11 in Mumbai. It had echoes of 9/11. It had echoes of 7th October. So this is a very global kind of diabolical mind that is thinking about these acts, and certainly in multiple ways related to Pakistan.
Ambassador Bisaria, these global terror links that Pakistan has should be a reason to not have this country actually head key UNSC terror panels, isn't it?
Well, I would agree that the optics are terrible. India argued against it, and we would ideally like this not to be the case. But I think we need to factor in that the diplomacy and even the counter-terror diplomacy is a long game. You don't get immediate outcomes, immediate results. While this optics of this kind of thing happening, while a terror plot is unraveled, is terrible. But at the same time, we must understand that the UN is a very process-led body. And every 10 years or so, Pakistan is a non-permanent member of the Security Council. And all the members get a chance to head some or the other committee. So this is not entirely surprising, but certainly the irony of it should be clear to the other members and should be underlined to them.
Indeed, Pakistan took over as the chair of the Taliban Sanctions Committee and vice chair of the UNSC Counter-Terror Panel. Ambassador Bisaria, which brings me to ask you the other fact, the instances of Pakistani involvement in possible terror attacks on American soil. Something as recent as August 2024, where a Pakistani man was held in a possible plot to kill American politicians. All these should add up to Trump administration taking a very stern view of the Pakistani leadership. Instead, there are reports coming in of possible business links, whether it is the crypto links of the Trump family or several others.
Well, it certainly does underline to the Trump administration, but we must remember that the Trump administration or any US administration is a huge machine. The counter-terror folks, Kash Patel and his FBI will be investigating these links. Very important investigation would also be into whether these individuals are lone rangers or they also are connected to Pakistan's ISI, which we know has multiple assets overseas, which it uses for multiple, aims overseas, and also in fighting some proxy terror battles against India. So all this will have to be examined. And what we would also, the Trump administration, I'm sure, would be told by India that it ought to increase the pressure on Pakistan. But we must remember that Pakistan is not completely isolated. Pakistan has some uses for the United States. Even now, it did even more in the past, but after the US withdrew from Afghanistan, less so. But still, the US feels it needs Pakistan as a sort of counter to China. It doesn't want Pakistan to go entirely into
Yes.
the Chinese camp. It also wants some over-the-horizon capability in Afghanistan
Yes.
to deal with terrorism issues there, and Pakistan becomes a useful machine in that. We can't wish away the uses that Pakistan has, but what we can do is point to the US administration that it ought to be looking at Pakistan with clear eyes about the dual game Pakistan has played, even with the United States, even in this century.
So very quickly, the last question I want to ask you is something we've spoken about as well in the past, which is the constant supply lines that keep coming to Pakistan in terms of the multilateral funding. Our own defense minister is on record saying that global institutions ought to stop funding Pakistan because money ends up reaching the terror factories. There are 25 financial agreements that Pakistan has with IMF and several more are in the pipeline. Why is it that Trump is not stopping this when such instances like Shahzeb Khan come to light?
Well, I think again, this is something which is slow. It is a diplomatic process in informing the world about Pakistan's connections to terrorism. We know that Pakistan has been in the IMF not for the first time, but for the 24th time. It's been going on for decades, while terrorism has been going on for decades. So now the global system has a sharp weapon, and that's the Financial Action Task Force. So I think the global diplomacy and India's diplomacy will be about highlighting that the FATF should be the organization that puts Pakistan back in the grey list, given all this mounting evidence of Pakistan's involvement in terrorism, and slowly those conditions should seep into other multilateral bodies like the IMF, the World Bank, the ADB, and therefore make it harder and harder for Pakistan to have this Janus-based approach of professing one thing but supporting terror in its other face. So I think it is a slow diplomacy. We shouldn't be expecting overnight results, but we ought to be chipping at it. India is on the forefront of making this point, but the world needs to wake up and take notice.
Absolutely. The world needs to wake up and take notice. Thank you so much, Ambassador Bisaria, as always, for putting all this in perspective and connecting the dots for our viewers.